So, and welcome to everybody at home. We're joining us remotely, thank you. Call to order, if everybody could please join us in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, that brings us to the superintendent's report. Mr. Harris?
Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
Well, we have some recognition today, and I have to say that this has been a very challenging year, as you know. Last year, when the pandemic hit in March, we decided that we were going to suspend the Teacher of the Year, Paraprofessional of the Year awards. And, you know, it was a decision based on the fact that I think everybody had to step up, and everybody did step up. All of our teachers, all of our staff did whatever we needed to make sure that our students and our families had what they needed to be successful. This year, we went through that same kind of conversation as the administrative team, and we said, you know what, let's do this. Let's recognize someone. We could have recognized our entire staff. We could have said that we're so proud of what we accomplished as a district. But instead, we chose to kind of forge forward and ask our colleagues and our community to nominate a Teacher and Paraprofessional of the Year. It brought tears to my eyes when I had an opportunity to read some of the nominations for the Teacher of the Year. We lost something very special this year to the St. Moriches community. And I have to say, when I first met Kate, she came to my office and we sat down and talked about her illness and what she might need for us to be able to support her through it. And I think I'm a pretty good judge of character when I meet somebody. And from the heart, the first thing I noticed about Kate was that she placed the kids first. She was worried about what the impact might be on them, and that to be sure that the district was going to do everything we could to take care of them. And so it was so heartwarming to read these essays that people wrote about Kate, and overwhelmingly, more people than anyone said Teacher of the Year should go to Mrs. Kate Adams. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Mr. Ritchie, who's going to talk a little bit more about this and about Kate in particular, and why she's so deserving of our award of Teacher of the Year.
Thank you. I know, you know, there's definitely staff members that are probably more well-suited to have spoken on my behalf tonight, you know, for Kate, so I'm honored to even represent her for, you know, such an award. As I knew Kate, you know, a couple of years, but there's a lot of people that have been teaching with her, and I think, you know, going through her loss in the building and watching the reaction of our staff and seeing how everybody, you know, had to kind of come together, and in typical St. Moriches fashion, we picked each other up and we, you know, we supported one another. But I think the overwhelming majority of people that I spoke to throughout the building, there's one word that continued to come back over and over and over again, was just friend. Mrs. Adams was so much more than a colleague to so many people. She was truly a friend at their core. And she's somebody that, if you knew Kate, she was probably the most approachable person in our building. She could talk to anybody, make anybody smile in the building, was full of love and excitement. And her kids absolutely loved being in her class. And it was one of those things where she was so much more than a teacher to certain children. She really kind of helped them find their way. Second grade, you know, is such an important grade for so many students, and it was an important, you know, turning point for a lot of kids. And she's had those kids throughout the years that at graduation are still seeking her out whenever she's around there. And I know that, you know, myself and her family, and you know, I just know that our whole staff supports the Adams family. I know that they're here tonight, and I think just if we could, if everybody could, just please stand for Ms. Adams and just, just out of recognition for her, just a round of applause for her. So if we could just ask some of the members of the Adams family to come down briefly to receive this award in her honor, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Dennis. For the paraprofessional of the year, we also had several nominees. And the person that stuck out most, I would say, it's interesting because we have a letter here. And when it was announced that Laura Moran was going to be paraprofessional of the year, it was said, so many teachers went up to Danielle, she told me, and said, I would have written a letter, but she wouldn't let me. and it just speaks to, I think, the humility of Laura. She doesn't want the spotlight. She does her job because she's there for the kids, and she does it because she loves her job and she loves the kids. And so I'm going to ask Danielle Jackson to come on up and speak a little bit more about Laura Moran, but this year's Paraprofessional of the Year.
So I help coordinate the nominations for the candidates for Paraprofessional of the Year. And while we received a lot of submissions, and I do appreciate all those that have contributed to those selection, and after an extensive review, it was Laura Moran who rose above the rest. So echoing what Dr. Massera had mentioned, Laura is a very deserving candidate for this honor. While she works primarily in kindergarten and first grade, we can see her in all the grades. So, but I see her heart is with those kindergartners and those first graders. She goes above and beyond what is expected of her. One nomination that I received stated that Laura is, quote, nurturing, kind, empathetic, helpful, and a giving person. She embodies everything you would want your little one to experience while at school. The warmth she gives is genuine because she truly cares about every child in the classroom. And end quote. The statement is exactly Laura Moran. I see her in the classroom every day. She's extremely quiet, but she's doing her work. That nurturing personality of hers shines through, and it's what our students look forward to every day. You can tell when she's not in the classroom because the students will ask me, where's Ms. Moran? So I want to say congratulations to Ms. Laura Moran on receiving Paraprofessional of the Year.
And unfortunately, she couldn't be here today, so we will be sure, and Dennis, if you could take back and make sure we make a special presentation in the last month. And I think it's probably better in front of you. We also have, in terms of recognition, we have some people with us today that later in the agenda are going to be recognized for their years of service to Seven Moriches schools. And what I'd like to do is we have a few people that are going to offer some words about each of them, but we have 4 teachers in particular that are receiving tenure tonight. I have to say that I'm certainly somebody who does not think that tenure is something that's granted lightly. Tenure is something that is granted because people are exceptional in what they do. People are dedicated, caring professionals that are going to contribute to a generation of Seven Moriches students. And so at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Soto to come up. And Mr. Soto, you'll be talking a little bit about Mr. Austin Doherty. Sure.
Good evening, everyone.
Austin Doggett came to St. Moriches about 4 years ago. Austin is an amazing educator. He works at the secondary complex. He's a high school teacher. What's really interesting about Austin is that he holds a lot of very interesting certifications. We hired him 4 years ago as a science person that predominantly works with the special ed population, but he also holds not only 2 certifications in science, which is living environment and earth science, but he also holds certification in health and PE. So I have to sometimes fight off the other administrators that may want to use him in other areas because I'm kind of coveting him for special education because he does such a great job with that population. I've observed him many, many times throughout the school year, throughout the years that he's worked with us. I've had many conversations with Austin, and every conversation seems to begin and end with his devotion and commitment to students. He is an educator that not just looks at developing lessons and units and assessments to try to better the academic progress of students, but he develops them in such a way that he really looks at the heart of the student. So I think all of the administrators in the district support our recommendation, endorsement to the superintendent to award or to elect his sort of election to tenure within the district. And he has definitely earned it, not only in the classroom, but also outside the classroom. So at this time, I would like to bring up Mr. Austin Dougherty to the board for recognition for his years of service in the St. Moriches District as a special ed science teacher at the secondary complex. Okay, unfortunately. We are still under the COVID rules a bit. Normally we would have a cake reception, but this year we opted for what is being handed out to our tenure recipients is a pen set that has their name engraved on it, and it also has the date in which they received their tenure from St. Moriches School. So a nice little keepsake that hopefully always reminds you that you're loved and cared for here at St. Moriches, and we're lucky to have you. Austin, I can say it is a pleasure to get into your class. When I was in there recently, I certainly noticed many of the things that Ricardo talked about. Clearly, your love for those kids was evident, and really a pleasure to get in there. Next up, I will ask Melissa Redchild if you could come on up and speak about Cullen Hansel.
Actually,
Yes, perfect.
This is Richard.
Go for it.
All right, I am honored to be here tonight to speak on behalf of Mrs. Colleen Hansel and this exciting night and memorable event in her career in St. Moriches School District. So Mrs. Hansel joined our 6th grade team at the middle school just this year. And what a crazy year it is to change school buildings, grade levels, and content areas in the midst of our global pandemic. However, upon walking into room 411 at the middle school, which is Mrs. Hansel's classroom, you would never ever know that that was the case. Mrs. Hansel immediately immersed herself in the curriculum at the 6th grade, joined our middle school family seamlessly, and from what I hear, her family immersed themselves in the curriculum as well. The Hansel House was studying 6th grade social studies for the summer. But her classroom was transformed into whatever unit or topic her students were currently studying: the Roman Empire, China, world religions, Sparta, and Athens. You name it, she decorated for it. She has created a student-centered classroom with student work on the walls, and upon observation this school year, Mrs. Hansel's strength is undoubtedly the relationships and rapport that she's formed with her students. If you have a 6th grader at St. Moriches Middle School right now, you can certainly attest to that. The students share with me that they feel at home in their social studies class, many of them loving social studies for the first time as a middle schooler. Mrs. Hansel can often be seen with a huge smile on her face, and we've learned during COVID that you can still see a smile in someone's eyes under their mask, of course. But she has that smile on her face all the time at the middle school. She's a positive and approachable presence for our sixth grade students, greeting them at the classroom door by name and in the halls with her big bright smile. I've had the pleasure of leading our Teacher of the Year committee this year, and Mrs. Hansel was actually nominated by one of our sixth grade students. Those are always my favorite nominations to read. So I wanted to read an excerpt from that nomination tonight, because nothing speaks to a teacher than hearing it with the student's voice. So I won't read the whole thing, but I wanted to start. So the student said, I'm in sixth grade and I'd like to nominate my social studies teacher, Mrs. Hansel, for Teacher of the Year. She's very nice to her students and she does very fun activities that teach us so much. For every new place we learn about, Mrs. Hansel will play a song to help us remember the name, culture, and other things about that area. Mrs. Hansel is super nice. She communicates well with her students and her coworkers all the time. They're always listening. That part struck me, but they're always listening and watching. You can see that because Mrs. Hansel joins with her coworkers tonight. She hangs up everyone's work in her classroom and she always congratulates us on our great work. I've learned so much in her class. And by the way, Mrs. Hansel's classroom always smells so good. I think it is very nice of her to always go the extra mile to keep her room clean and smelling so nice. Mrs. Hansel takes extra precautions to keep the students safe, and it makes me feel that she really cares about us. So especially again in the light of COVID, that line really stuck out to me. They feel safe and nurtured in her classroom, Mrs. Hansel. She always checks in with us to make sure we're learning what she is teaching. Mrs. Hansel puts so much time and effort into making sure that us, the students, have a great learning experience. So Mrs. Hansel, you have seamlessly joined our middle school family, and I'm so excited for you in this milestone in your career. I look forward to many years to come working with you, but most importantly, I look forward to the many, many years of sixth graders entering the middle school that will have you as their teacher. Congratulations.
Just a couple of points I would make also. This was a long trip to tenure for Connor. So, this is, oftentimes, you get hired 4 years later, you get tenure. Other times, things happen, right? And layoffs happen because of, enrollment decrease, things like that. And that's what happened here. And so, unfortunately, Mr. Hansel had to go on what's referred to as a preferred eligibility list, but never lost the passion for teaching, never got angry or, the things that can happen when you lose your job. Instead, she stayed fast and true and in her commitment to Moriches. And that's something that we know is something that is very, very special. And again, you'll benefit a generation of Moriches students through this tenure. The other point I would make is that when you start talking about tenure and your assistant superintendent says, my son, one of my son's favorite teachers said, not the favorite. And by the way, my son now wants to see the world because he's so inspired by what she's teaching him in social studies. And so when you hear that from your assistant superintendent, this kind of thing is a no-brainer. So thank you, Connor. Congratulations. I'm going to call up Marissa Mangonia to say some words about Mr. Dan.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to talk about Dan Draco a little bit. Okay, hi Dan. So if you look around any event that goes on at the high school, you will probably see Dan there with a camera in hand, snapping pictures. He is such a dedicated individual for our school, not just in the classroom. He really has immersed himself in the community, and the kids flock to him, and they have their own cameras now. And it's really exciting to see, he even brought, we had our Native American exhibition, and instead of just coming down to take pictures, he brought his class down and they took pictures, and he went through it and really showed them like the different ways. It was just an amazing experience, not just to watch the performers, but just the whole thing. So I really appreciate that from Mr. Cadrigo. You know, as a new teacher, he hopped right on board with the IB training. He was ready to go, which you don't always see right away when you're fresh and new in a building. I know Ed Caswell was very excited about that, as was I, and you've really taken the program and you're growing the program, and it's exciting to see. Our students love his classes. They always want to sign up for his classes. And the great thing too is they're not just in them, they're excelling. Our students are being recognized. We're getting awards. These kids are getting scholarships, and it's not just because they're great at art, it's because they're inspired by Mr. Cadrigo. So I just want to say thank you for bringing life into our hallways, literally the kids in the hallways taking pictures and you know, really bringing just excitement and energy to the building, the art classes, but really anything that you would teach, I feel like the kids would really love. So it is my honor on behalf of Jeremy Code and myself and all of our administrators to recommend Dan Cadrigo for tenure tonight.
When I first got hired as superintendent, one of the first, I think I went to one of the first football games, and I remember Ed Caswell pulled me aside and said, "Yo, there's somebody you have to meet. You got to meet this guy." and I hadn't met Dan yet, and Ed Caswell introduced me to Dan. And the reason Ed said that was because he said he's special. He's the kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that can carry an art program forward. And I see that in Dan. You know, when I get the email the other day saying that, you know, because of COVID, you know, we dropped, you know, we didn't pursue that idea of an art honor society, but Dan's driving the bus and wants to see that happen for our kids because he really wants to see our kids excel. When I was in Dan's class, I see it. I see the connection with kids, and I see the way he looks at kids as individuals and is respectful to all of them. Dan, that's a gift, and we're lucky to have you. Thank you. And now I'll ask Dennis Ritchie to come back up and speak a little bit about Michelle Tyson.
So I know Ms. Tyson came with some fans tonight, so if you can make a little noise for Ms. Tyson if you're here. She's a little embarrassed that she's going to have almost the entire family filling up the seats tonight, but luckily we're increasing capacity little by little, so that's great. You know, going into Ms. McGee and Ms. Tyson's class is, you know, not only a pleasure and it's exciting every day, but one of the things that you've noticed, you know, it sometimes takes a trained eye to go in and see the craft of teaching, right? So when you walk in discreetly, you may not see some of the things that are happening in symbiotic relationship between Ms. McGee and Ms. Tyson, but when you are really honing in, you'll notice that, you know, discreetly she'll kneel down and whisper to a child, and you won't really understand what's happening, and then she'll go to the next kid and she's checking in, and that's happening periodically throughout the day, and then all of a sudden learning is happening simultaneously, and you're not really understanding it. And then when you really hone in on what's going on in the craft that she has, and she's established with her partner, it's amazing to see the relationship that the two of them have built and how Mrs. Tyson has created such a relationship with her partner that the respect and rapport that they have with each other is not only benefiting both of them as, you know, professionals, but the kids are just absolutely soaring in the class. And I think it's one of those things that when you see, you know, certain people that make your job easy, that when you walk in and you just know that good teaching is going on, that's one of those special things that you can respect out of another colleague of yours. The other thing that I would say about Ms. Tyson is she is a fierce person when it comes to advocating for her children. When you try to get between a mama and her cubs, it is a dangerous thing. So make sure that, and that's I say that, you know, jokingly, but at the same time, it's one of those things that not a moment goes by where she's not looking out for the best interests of her kids at all times. And I have, you know, a tremendous amount of respect for the things that she does in her classroom and the way that she supports her learners that may be struggling. but she gets them to really excel in ways that, many teachers would struggle to. So I have a lot of respect for the things that you do in the classroom, and I appreciate all the work that you've done. So it brings me great pride and honor to be able to recommend Michelle Tyson as well tonight for tenure.
There's certainly a common theme here, amongst from Teacher of the Year, Paraprofessional of the Year, and those who received tenure tonight. And certainly, Michelle, I could say that I witnessed that myself, echoing what Dennis said in your classroom. Very clear the connection to the students is of the utmost importance, and the connection is so strong. And that is, to me, that's the biggest thing we need in terms of the art of teaching and connecting to kids, building those connections, and you do it so beautifully. When we talk about walking into a co-teaching model, it's remarkable to see the seamless transitions that take place in your classroom, and that is a true testament to the effort you put in, because one of the hardest things to do is really do co-teaching well, because it's not about planning a lesson and implementing a lesson. It's about planning a lesson, talking to a colleague, and figuring out the role of each of them and how is that going to suit well for each individual lesson. And that looks different depending upon the day of the week, the unit being presented, the content being presented. And so to skillfully do it the way you do is just a credit to the type of professional you are. Again, congratulations, Michelle, and congratulations to all of our teachers who received tenure, who will receive tenure this evening, assuming the board's good. But it certainly is my recommendation as superintendent to recommend the four of you, and I wish you many, many years of continued success in the San Moriches School District. Thank you so much.
So just, before we move on to the next thing, my oldest son had Mrs. Adams in the 3rd grade. And at back to school night, we're sitting in these little chairs, my knees are like in my ears, and she's up at the board. And she's got state assessment written over here on the side here, right? State assessment and math and the dates and, whatever. And she's going through a spiel, and she gets this part. She goes in, yeah, we have state tests this year. And then she just keeps going. And I looked at my wife dumbfounded and said, did she just blow off the state assessments in about 4 seconds? And she did. And it's because she had so much confidence in her ability and well-deserved confidence in her ability as a teacher. And as an instructor of children, to not have to worry about teaching to the test, but to be able to teach to them and get the best out of them, no matter what the situation, and that they would ultimately be prepared. And I think it's wonderful that we get to celebrate her tonight on a night that we're awarding tenure, depending on how the book goes, that we're awarding tenure to people who have demonstrated good teaching and good instruction and ability to connect with children. I can't think of a better way to celebrate Mrs. Adams than that. So I do want to congratulate her on the Teacher of the Year and on your tenure recommendations, and Mr. Rand, who couldn't be here tonight, but I did want to just congratulate all of you on behalf of the board. So thank you very much.
We do have just a couple of other things to congratulate, I believe. I would start by congratulating a couple of our sports teams. Yesterday, our boys lacrosse team made it all the way to the semifinals of the county championship and just lost in a heartbreaker. But congratulations to them for making it to the semifinals. Just a great year and a great run for them. Yesterday, also, last evening, I was fortunate, actually, my whole family came down. We're a lacrosse family, and no one wanted to miss it. My whole family came down, as well as I think the entire Eastport South Manor girls lacrosse team to come down and cheer on the San Moriches girls lacrosse team. And very pleased to congratulate them for their first ever county championship. So congratulations to the girls on their first ever county championship in girls lacrosse. And earlier today, our girls softball team, like to wish them congratulations. Couldn't be there because I was watching, unfortunately, my daughter lose the county championship today. But that's how it goes in sports. But our girls did win the county championship in softball. So much success for our teams this spring, and lots of congratulations to the teams and their hard work effort.
Girls lacrosse Long Island Championship is Saturday.
Oh, yeah, yes, and the girls across.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock Saturday. What?
Is it a best pitch?
Yeah.
And they worked so incredibly hard, well deserved by them. And I know how success, I didn't get to see the softball game, but I know how successful that program has been and how hard they work, and you could be proud of them. Proud of our boys too. So congratulations to all of them.
And for the last part of mine, that isn't necessarily on here, it's just that, we've been struggling, lots of challenges this year, and we've been struggling with the reopening and the changing guidance, the constantly changing guidance. And the most recent guidance that came out today, I got an email around 11:30, and they said, Ron, if you could be on a call at noon with Dan Fuller and Terry Pratt from the governor's office, they want to update you on this latest guidance. And essentially what they informed us was that, yes, indeed, we can have our, basically anything under 5,000 people at our graduation without essentially many of the restrictions that we previously had. So I'm looking forward to adapting some of our end of year activities to meet with some of those so that we can have as many parents and family members attend our events as possible. And we're kind of shifting quickly on that. But once we figure it all out, again, it happens so fast that we need to adjust. We need to come up with ways we can work through these things. But essentially, unfortunately, the guidance still remains that we must, in the educational environment, pre-K through 12th grade, have masks indoors. Masks outdoors, of course, have already, we've learned, are not necessary. But I think that that's good news for us, for our end of year activities and celebrations, that we'll be able to open up a bit more. So very pleased to report that out and look for more correspondence from the building with regard to what that looks like. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Laughlin, who's going to talk just a little bit about our American Recovery Plan spending. No big presentation, but just an update on where we're at with that. As we do have a requirement to have this plan approved prior to July 1.
So as Dr. Massaro said, no big presentation tonight, just wanted to update the board with where we stand. Last meeting, we did give a lengthy presentation on all the federal funding, the main piece being the American Rescue Plan, which we've put together. We've posted it up on our website. It has been up there with the information on how to comment on it, provide feedback, provide input. At this point, we have not received any. So we have been at that 30-day mark, which is what is required underneath the regulations. So tonight you will see on the board resolutions for the board to accept the plan as it was presented. Keeping in mind this is an ever developing plan. Right now it is for year 1. We are in a pretty good spot. We are working with scope. As you can see also, there's contracts on the agenda tonight to approve for the summer program, summer enrichment in K-8, as well as the summer ENL program for K-8. We are currently working on staffing those programs with the hopes to start registration next week for the families to start registering so we can see how many programs we're actually going to be able to run. In the grades 9 through 12, again, we're working on staffing. That is a slightly different program as they are older children and the enrichment will look a lot different. So the high school staff is working on that as well as trying to get the staff in place, and then we'll put the offerings out to the students for enrollment for that for the summer. With regards to the length of the school year, we are already working on hiring staff to start working on the learning loss piece of this funding source, and we'll continue to update the board as we go through those processes. But it is a ever-changing plan. It is a 3, sometimes possibly a 3.5, 4-year plan. That we know right now, this is what we see going into the future, and we will continue to modify based on the needs of our students. So as we make those modifications, we will present it to both the board and the public, update the plan on the website and ask the board to accept the revised plan as we move forward. So like I said, no major changes. The presentation from last time is up on the business office page, as well as the actual plan itself in draft form. Once the board accepts it this evening, it will be removed from draft form and put into regular accepted format on the website up on the business office page. So any questions from the board on that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Good? Okay. Thank you. So that brings us to questions and comments regarding tonight's agenda only. If anybody would like to ask questions, comment? Bill? Nothing? Okay, thank you. Approval of minutes, the Board of Ed is asked to accept the minutes of the following meeting as prepared by the district clerk. Minutes of the meeting of the Board of Ed on May 19th, 2021, and minutes of the meeting of the Board of Ed on June 3rd, 2021. Motion? Motion. Second? All in favor? Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Financial reports. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, accepts the following financial reports. A, internal claims audit report for May 2021. Student activity treasurer's report for May 2021. Treasurer's report, May 2021, the budget transfer page.
Motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Budget transfer authorization. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby authorizes the assistant superintendent for business to make all necessary budgetary transfers for the end of the year books closings.
Motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Tenure recommended action. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the tenure appointments of the following individuals: Austin Doherty, Colleen Hansel, Daniel Kudrico, Michelle Tyson.
Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Congratulations. Now you have the flowers.
It was in the bag.
Consent agenda vote. Be it resolved, a motion to approve the consent agenda. Asterisk agenda items are consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are approved by a single vote unless they are removed from being a consent item prior to vote.
Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Yes. Motion carries unanimously. That brings us to general public questions. So this is any question, if you want to address the board on any topic related to board work, you're welcome to do so at this time. Anything? Okay, there you are. Nothing? All right, every couple seconds you disappear behind the balloon. Okay, motion to adjourn? Yes.
That was under the consent agenda. It's just over here, it's indicated there on page 4. So it was covered.
What was covered?
The donations were
Yeah,
under
but we
the
do,
consent agenda.
yeah, I think what Marcus is saying is we do want to thank
Oh, right.
Ashley, Jay, Heather. I gotta stop wearing glasses. Income tables, that's awesome, equipment. So thank you very much for that. And from the Association of School Business Officials, $500 for the purpose of graduating student scholarships. So thank you very much for that. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you, Marcus, for pointing that out. Where are these ping pong tables?
I'm going to send the truck out, we'll pick them up all these.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. Motion to adjourn. Motion second. All in favor? Yes, motion carries unanimously. Our next meeting will be July 7th, exec session at 6 o'clock. Action meeting will be approximately at 7, location be determined, hopefully we'll be in person somewhere, so. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, congratulations.
We need to adjourn into executive.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I did it the wrong way, right? Hold on. Thank you, Marcus. Motion to adjourn into executive session for discussing personnel, the public discussion of which would be an invasion of personal privacy. Motion? Second? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Our next meeting will be June, I said all that already. Have a very good night, then.
Thank you all for coming.
Congratulations.